We're always told the creator economy is global, right? Well, today we're going to dig into a story that kind of pulls the rug out from under that idea. It's a story about incredible talent, huge ambition, and a system that honestly feels like it's just repeating old mistakes with new tech. And it all starts with a couple of numbers that they don't make any sense. Okay, so picture this. You and your friends, you've got this amazing music collective. You pour everything you have into it, right? And over 4 years, you get 10 million views on YouTube. I mean, wow, that's a massive success. You think you've made it, wouldn't you? But what if all of that work, all those views, only earned you this much? $2,500 for 10 million views. It sounds totally impossible, right? But this isn't some made-up example. This is the real-life story of an Ethiopian music collective called Habesha Hood. So let's break that down because the gap is just wild. For every 1,000 views, Habesha Hood was making about 25 cents, just a quarter. Now, a creator in the US, they'd be looking at something like $6 for those same 1,000 views. That's not just a little different. That's more than 20 times the payout. So you do the math. A US creator with those numbers would have made over $50,000. So, where did the rest of the money go? Where's the other 50 grand? That is the big question, and it's the mystery we're going to unravel right now. And you know what happened to Habesha Hood? It's not some weird one-off thing. It's actually the perfect example that shows us exactly how this giant gap gets created in the first place. So yeah, to figure out what happened to that money, we've got to go deeper than just the view count. It turns out there's basically a giant monetization wall standing in the way of Ethiopian creators. And to understand it, we're going to break down the 4 big barriers that build that wall. So here's the plan. First, you've got platform exclusion, basically being locked out from the start. Then you've got market forces, which means super low ad rates. After that, infrastructure gaps, like not even having a way to get paid. And finally, just a total lack of local support. Let's dive in. All right, let's tackle that first one, the YouTube Partner Program. You probably know it as YPP. It's the only way to make money from ads on the platform. It's the front door. But here's the thing. Ethiopia just isn't on the list of eligible countries. Out of around 100 countries that are on the list, they're not one of them. So creators there are literally locked out before they can even get started. So what do? Well, it puts these creators in a really tough spot. To have any shot at all, they have to try and trick the system. They end up using a US AdSense account or asking a relative in another country to set up their channel for them. I mean, it's a super risky, shaky foundation to build a career on. And it's all because the platform just doesn't officially recognize their country. Okay, but let's say they pull it off. They find a workaround, they get into the partner program. That still doesn't explain why the pay is so ridiculously low, right? Why are they still only making 25 cents for 1,000 views? Well, that brings us to barrier number 2, straight up market forces. And this really gets to the heart of the money problem. We're looking at CPM here. That's basically what advertisers are willing to pay to show their ads 1,000 times. Now look at the US. They'll shell out almost $33. But in a market like Nigeria, that number just nosedives to less than $3. And for Ethiopia, the rate is so low, it might as well be 0. So what does that mean for the creator's wallet? This is the RPM, the actual cash a creator gets per 1,000 views. And yeah, you can see Ethiopia right there at the bottom. Now look at Nigeria and Kenya. They're in the program and they're earning about $1. Better. But then you look at the US and the UK and it's like a different planet. It just shows that the value of an eyeball is wildly different depending on its zip code. And it gets worse. Let's talk about barriers 3 and 4, infrastructure, and, frankly, neglect. So even if a creator manages to earn a few bucks, just getting that money is a whole other fight. Basic stuff like PayPal, not an option. And YouTube has the $60 minimum before they'll pay you out. Think about that. How are you ever going to hit $60 when you're earning pennies? It's almost impossible. So they have to rely on relatives abroad just to cash a check. It's absurd. You know, it's so easy to get lost in the numbers, but this is about way more than just a spreadsheet. These barriers, they have a huge real-world impact. We're talking about people's lives, their dreams, and the creative energy of a whole generation of young talent. And what it does is create this awful, vicious cycle. It's like a trap. The pay is so low that talented people just get discouraged and stop creating. That means the local YouTube scene stays small, which of course means advertisers don't see a reason to invest, and the cycle just keeps going, feeding on itself. And you can really feel the frustration when you hear from the creators directly. This quote from a dancer, it just hits you. It's not just about the paycheck. It's about feeling like you're part of the conversation, feeling like your art matters. And when the system ignores you, it makes you feel invisible. So what's the big picture here? It's a classic creative brain drain. You've got these incredibly innovative young people who see absolutely no future for themselves at home. So what do? They either give up on their passion or they leave. This isn't just a YouTube problem. This digital exclusion is hurting the entire country's future, both culturally and economically. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, I know, but it's not a lost cause. The problems are big and systemic, yeah, but that means the solutions can be too. There is a way forward. In fact, we can see a kind of blueprint for how to fix this just by looking at what some other African countries have done.
Just look at the contrast here. On one side, you've got the reality for Ethiopia, and on the other, you've got the progress we've seen in places like Nigeria and Kenya. They fought for it, and they got access to the YouTube Partner Program. They've secured investment. They're building a real ecosystem. Now, are their earnings on par with the US? No, not yet. But they prove that this can be changed. It is possible.
So the blueprint for change really comes down to 3 key things. Step 1, the platforms, like YouTube, just have to open the door. Put Ethiopia on the YPP list. Simple as that. Step 2, you need the financial plumbing. Things like modern payment systems so money can actually move around. And step 3, everyone needs to work together to show big global brands that African audiences are valuable and worth advertising to. So in the end, the story of Habesha Hood leaves us with a really big, kind of uncomfortable question. We were all sold this idea that the internet would be the great equalizer, right? A place where your talent mattered more than your passport. But what this story shows us is that maybe this new global creator economy is just drawing the same old maps of inequality, just with pixels instead of ink. And that's something we should all be thinking about.